that into the equation.
Okay. The letter of intent is something that is non-binding on either property. I used letters of intent a ton of times when I was first getting started. I used it to make most of my offers because I did not want to have legally binding offers floating all over the place that forced me to buy a house if somebody accepted my offer, because number one, I wasn't in a position to buy everything, but number two, I was making so many offers. This was just a way for me to get the dialogue going to see who may be interested in discussing their property further with me. I would float an offer out there. If they bid on my letter of intent, then I put in some more due diligence, and if the deal looked good, I would fill out the contract.
Okay. So it's pretty self-explanatory there. I mean, you couldn't have a much simpler form.
It is so simple, and it's a very simple way just to float a lot of offers out there, and we'll just run through this quick, but like you said, this is very self-explanatory.
Yeah.
But it says, this letter of intent specifies general terms under which the buyer may have interest in purchasing the specified property from the seller. Should the seller find the proposed terms generally acceptable, the buyer may then direct the agent to prepare a formal residential contract of sale for the consideration by the seller. The letter of intent is not an offer to purchase or to sell, as such an offer shall be made only on a standard contract from which shall also include those provisions required by law. And then we just simply outline the terms. We put in the address, the buyer's name, the purchase price, the earnest money, settlement date, financing contingencies, additional contingencies, and any other terms that we may want included in the contract. And then we have an expiration date for the letter of intent. This is a very powerful tool that is not legally binding on any party.
And it's powerful because you're fishing, right?
Correct. It just gets the dialogue going and helps you to determine who you should get serious with.
So typically when you use a letter of intent, you have not seen the property. You really are just making a very general assessment as to, you probably have a pretty good idea of what the after-repaired value is and kind of what the deal might look like.
Correct. Now, one thing that I will state, in many instances, but not all, realtors don't really pay any mind to letters of intent. At least they say that they don't. I believe a realtor is even legally obligated, under their licensing rules, to even present the letter of intent. Many of them say that they won't do it because it's not a contract, but I believe that they are obligated, and I use them with realtors all the time. And even when they told me that they wouldn't accept them, I was still getting them accepted. And then we were writing the contracts up after the fact.
Okay. So this is part of your standard operating procedure even when realtors are involved?
It was. Today I just use contracts. But when I was not in a position to necessarily settle every deal, this was my primary method of making offers.
And you could still use a contract as long as you know that you know that you know that if they were, on the off chance they were to accept your agreement exactly as it is, you still got a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is always that slim chance that without any changes, they're going to say, done, and then, you've made an obligation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one question I have would be under financing contingency, item 6 there, would you just put yes if there's a financing contingency, or would you scribble some details of the contingency?
I typically would say contingent upon obtaining financing from Valley Bank or whoever I was going to use, and that's all I would write in there, nothing more.
Okay. Now, I've got a friend of mine here locally who does a lot of commercial investing, and he almost always leads with a letter of intent, and the realtors involved in commercial transactions seem to really respond well to letters of intent. Maybe it's a little more traditional.
It's very, very traditional in the commercial realm simply because contracts for purchasing commercial properties are very detailed. You almost always have an attorney draw up the contract, and nobody wants to go through the expense of writing up such an offer without knowing that there's a possibility of it being accepted.
That's right. Okay, any other final thoughts about the letter of intent before we move to the next one?
Well, that's it.
Okay.